Hey, what's up guys? This is Michael from Karate Breakdown. I'm here to bring back practical karate. This is video 2 of my series of taking common karate techniques, common misconceptions, and kind of educating everybody about the practical applications of them. So today we're talking about nukite, or the spear hand. Even the name itself is kind of a misnomer. If you think about using your hand as a spear, trying to spear through your opponents. I know in the more fantastical interpretations, it's more spearing through somebody's chest or something. A little more practical, of course, would be hitting soft tissue, finger in the eye, finger in the neck, finger in pressure points, solar plex, under the armpit, stuff like that. But if you notice, when people do use their fingertips for a strike, they have to make their fingers in a straight line somehow. If you stretch out your hands straight, you notice your fingers are not in a straight line. So what's going to hit first is usually your middle finger. And if that's taking the brunt of the impact, you're not going to have a great time. So there's modifications on the hand, of course, to make it in a straight line. So some people bend their fingers, some people bend their entire hand so that they're hitting more with a bent hand versus a straight hand. Again, but that's kind of a modification on the nukite, right? The spear hand. So looking at some more actual practical applications of it, how can you use the nukite when you're not training your fingertips as striking elements on a day-to-day basis? So looking at the structure of the hand, when you extend your fingers straight, it becomes a flat surface, right? So if you create a fist, you're creating a rectangle. If you straighten out your hand, you're creating more like a blade. And that blade, it can squeeze between things, it can push through things, and it can get into crevices that a fist or a larger surface area cannot. The first thing I'll think about is, most obviously, is digging for the underhooks. So if you guys are familiar with any wrestling or fighting within the clinch, which this channel is all about, then you got to figure out a way to dig for that underhook between the armpit, between your opponent's arm and their torso, especially if they're pinching their arm in. It's going to be kind of hard. So flattening out your hand as much as possible and then stepping through as you push out that nukite, that spear hand, it's going to help you dig for that underhook. And you see it a lot in no-gi grappling, in wrestling, and judo, etc. As you guys know, with the underhook, that allows you to get your arm underneath your opponent's center of gravity as you get your arm under their armpit so that you can move their torso around and lift them up on their toes. If you're able to lift somebody up onto their toes, that allows you to get underneath their center of gravity and lift them up and potentially get a takedown on them. Another example here, this is a guy from the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world, Craig Jones. If you guys follow that, he's very popular. He actually extends his fingers to create a solid structure with his anatomy. I've created videos on this before, but do you think about vectors of the body, wherever your limbs are pointing is where the energy is going, right? And I say energy not as like some chi type of thing, but it's more about vectors of where your energy is pushing, where your body's creating anatomical structures that are hard to break down. He does this on the ground, and it prevents his opponent from bending his limbs. It prevents his opponents from contracting his body so that he can actually expand where he wants and lock out his anatomical structure to create a stronger foundation. If you take that and you put it on the feet, then creating like a solid bar out of your arm gives you an advantage. One of which is when you go for takedowns, right? So if you do like a step behind takedown and you use your arm as a nukite to blast through your opponent's torso, it allows you to go beyond their center of gravity so you can knock them over with your bottom half. Similarly, you could do the same thing like in Aikido where you do shoulder checks. You could do shoulder checks or bicep checks. And if you imagine you're blasting through them with that nukite and then you add a rotation into it like Aikido does, you can think of it as a head and arm throw or a rotating takedown or some type of throw that takes them down to the ground. You see this a lot in katas that I'll show here. Some that come to mind would be like Pinan Nidan. Goju Shiho has a couple as well. Anything where your arm goes straight, and I'm looking at Pinan Sandan where it actually has a nukite in it. Anything where your arm goes straight, your hand shoots out straight as well, and then you add a rotation to it, most likely is a takedown. If you guys know in kata, a lot of the rules of thumbs, a 90-degree turn can be a pivot to a takedown. A 180-degree turn for sure is like a rotating takedown. So if you think of all these things adding on top of a nukite where your arm goes straight, you are locking out your anatomical structure, and then you are blasting through and past your opponent's center of gravity, add a rotation to that, and then you have the potential for a throw or a takedown there. And then one final one, just a little bonus, there is also, digging within clothing or gi, right? So you can go for a collar grip. You can go for a collar drag after you get a solid grip. And to go for a grip like that, you need to open up your palm and have it like a nukete, a flat surface, so you can slide within or between different clothing. And in doing that, again, that gives you opportunities for chokes, that gives you opportunities for collar drags, like I said earlier. But again, hopefully this all makes sense. These are 3 or 4 potential interpretations of the nukete, rather than trying to condition your fingertips to strike somebody's throat and potentially hurting your own fingers in the process. Hope you enjoyed that. If you like stuff like this, subscribe to the channel, like this video, leave a comment below, and I'll catch you on the next one.